the secret to being on top of your finances, I've discovered, is to not have a lot of finances, first of all, and to have no real assets or investments and nothing too much to keep track of so it doesn't get out of hand. I also realized that a couple years ago when I was younger and I started paying bills, that I could trick myself into thinking it was fun, kind of like the way you do with exercising, where you can like put on a podcast and trick yourself into thinking exercising is fun, even though it's horrible, right? So with paying bills, I was like, well, if I have checks that are pretty with like peacocks on them, it's like pretty money, and then I can write a check and it feels fun with my like pretty pen, and I can put it in an envelope with a pretty stamp and send it away, and it's like a game. Paying bills is like a game, and I've tricked myself into believing this, and so I pay all my bills by mail so it can be fun and so I can stay on top of it. So when all of these overdue bills started coming to my mailbox, addressed to not me, Margot Lightman, but a man named Wilbur D. Moore, I was like, well, it's no problem. I'm on top of my finances, and I'll just send it return to sender. No big deal. So I wrote them return to sender, and they would still just like come back, right back into my mailbox, return to sender. And so then on top of that, the recycled bills from Wilbur D. Moore were coming back, and then more bills, new ones were coming. So I would open my mailbox, and every day it would just be this mountain of bills, not addressed to me, because I'm on top of my finances, but to Wilbur D. Moore. And I started getting really annoyed. Like, I just don't know how much you can understand how much I pride myself on being on top. Like, it's the one thing I'm on top of in my life. It's the only thing. Like, I put clothes into my drawer, folded, and then I open them an hour later and they're unfolded. Like, I'm not on top of anything. I'm a mess. But like, bills, I'm on top of. I got my credit score done recently. It was 4 points higher than my husband's. And I have to say, aside from winning the $5 that I just won on the Albertsons Monopoly sweepstakes, thank you very much. It was truly the highlight of my year. Like, I really care about this shit. So Wilbur D. Moore was like ruining my game. I would open my mailbox and it would just be like overdue, IRS, loan officers, income tax, banks, just all of these bills, and it would be in red, like the red envelope, and they just kept coming. And I just started to hate opening the mail. And I used to love to open the mail. I'm a freelancer, and my checks would come there, and it would be fun. And now it was just like a chore. So I started to get really stressed out because Wilbur D. Moore was clearly not on top of his finances, and I needed to take care of it. So I went to the post office, and I was like, I need to speak to a supervisor. And then so he comes out, and I was like, look, I'm getting all these bills for Wilbur D. Moore. He's diverting his mail to a debt to my house. I have perfect credit and I can't take it. And your mailman is just returning them, return to sender, return back to me. I can't take it anymore. It needs to stop. It needs to stop. And they were like, we will take care of it. In their head, they were like, she is a lunatic, but we will take care of it. So they claim that they will. The bills keep coming. So I write a note on my post box, and it's like, under no circumstances should you deliver anything for Wilbur D. Moore to this mailbox. And they keep coming. So I'm gonna be honest, like, at this point in my life, I was not that busy. So I decided to just stake out the mailman and catch him in the act, putting Wilbur D. Moore's bills into my mailbox. And I did. I caught him. I went, he delivered it, and I checked the mail right as he was still standing there putting the mail into the other apartment's boxes. And I was like, Wilbur D. Moore, Wilbur D. Moore, Wilbur D. Moore. I said no mail for him. And he was like, sorry. And that was it. Like, he didn't give a shit. Why didn't he care? Why didn't anyone else care that this man was just spinning into a debt hole? No one cared but me. So I thought back of like how I really needed to face this problem because it was driving me insane. And so I started to think back to this episode I saw of one of my favorite shows of all time, the Tyra Banks talk show. It was a 2006 episode, and it really stuck with me, where they had a woman named Christina on, and it was about facing your fears, facing your problems head on. And Christina was deathly afraid of change. And I don't mean like moving forward, taking the leap, you know, buying the house type of change. I mean like spare change, like nickels and dimes. And Christina was terrified. Most terrified of pennies, deathly fear of pennies. And so Tyra filled a fish tank full of pennies and forced Christina to jam her bare hand into it while like she screamed on camera. And then I don't really know what happened to Christina after that. Let's hope that she's no longer afraid of pennies. But what I do know is she faced her problem head on. And I was thinking about Wilbur D. Moore and about all of these bills and about my huge issue I had with him. And I was like, sometimes you have to stick your bare hand in a fish tank full of pennies. And so I did some internet sleuthing, and I found Wilbur's phone number on the internet, and I called him. And I was like, hello, Wilbur. This is Margot Lightman. I think you know who I am. And he was like, no, I don't. And I was like, I live at, and I said my address. He was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, you've been getting your mail, your debt delivered to my house? And he was like, I've never lived at that address. I was like, yes, I know you've never lived at this address. And he was like, I don't really know what you're talking about. And I was like, I think you do. You're in a lot of debt. You found some poor sap with perfect credit, and you're diverting all of your mail to her so it becomes my problem. And he goes, and at this point he was like, I don't really think it's your problem. And I just visualized him saying that, like lying on a bed with just mountains of bills and like 7 or 8 burner phones around him, because Wilbur D. Moore is a grifter, okay? He is a grifter. So I was like, Wilbur, you cannot send your mail to me. You have debt, that's fine, but you cannot keep sending it to me. I have perfect credit. It's stressing me out. And he was like, it's not your problem. And I was like, I think it is if it's coming to my house. And he goes, so ignore it. And I was like, well, all of these envelopes say federal offense to ignore. And he goes, if it's not addressed to you, throw it in the trash. And I said, well, they all say federal offense to throw in the trash. I can't do it. He's like, just throw them out. And I was like, I will not handle your dirty work. No. And he goes, look, I'm not saying that I am doing this, but what I will say is that Margot, is that right, Margot? If you claim you have perfect credit, enjoy it. Like, make the best of it. Don't worry about me. I'm not your problem. Enjoy your life. And I was like, just send it somewhere else, please. Just send the mail to someone else, okay? And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, I think you do. And then I hung up. And I'd be lying to say that Wilbur did not have some valid points in that argument. Why was I so consumed with this problem? Like, it took up so much of my time and so much of my energy and most of my discussions at parties, and no one cared. And I'm still, like, as I'm telling you the story, like, raging about it. So he made some valid points, and I would love to tell you that I walked away from my phone call with Wilbur, a new woman, and decided that I should appreciate the good things I have in my life and not worry about other people's problems and keep my eyes on my own paper for the rest of my life. But I really couldn't. Guys, it was stressing me out. It was stressing me out. So I just handled it in the only way I could, which is that we moved. Thank you. I need somebody.